This is PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
Hi there, I'm Henry Rosoff, and welcome to this episode of PIX on Politics Daily. And if you didn't notice, and it is making national news, so perhaps you did, we just dropped a very big, very important, very close poll in the race for New Jersey governor in concert with our partners at Emerson College Polling. They're the guys that really do the hard work, and The Hill as well, our partners through Nexstar. So let me bring in Chief Pollster over at Emerson College, Spencer Kimball. I communicate with him a lot in setting, and his team in setting up the polls and presenting for them for you live on television. You don't necessarily always get to meet Spencer. We love having him on our political shows when we can. How you doing today, Spencer?
Henry, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So really, this is a statistical dead heat with both candidates pretty much right at 43%. Step us through the top line results of this poll, if you could, please.
Well, as you said, they are tied at 43-43. Now, there's been a lot of public polling that has had this race at double digits pretty much throughout. And I was a little skeptical of those polls, but now that we went into the field, I feel very comfortable that we have a tight race. If you compare it back to 21, when Murphy is able to beat Jack by 3 points, you can see a big swing in the female vote, which is what's tightening the race. Sherrill's not doing as well with the female vote. She's only winning it by 10 points. Murphy won it by 20. So we'll see if she's able to expand that or if Jack's able to continue to make those inroads and pull off the upset.
No, I'm a numbers guy, and I really like getting into the nitty gritty. So this poll showing Mikie, Sherrill, Democratic Congresswoman, Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican who ran last time, former state assemblyman, literally separated by 4/10, which based on your polling sample is literally 4 people, correct?
Yeah, you got a sample of 1,000 people, so it would be 4. So you're talking a very, very tight race. But when you get into those numbers, like likely voters versus somewhat likely voters, you start to see some differences. Jack actually has a little bit more momentum with the likely voter. He's up by a point. The somewhat likely voters, they're a little bit on the sideline, and they're like, yeah, they'd break for Mikie by about 10 points. But the question is, are they going to come out and vote? And if they don't come out and vote, Jack's got a 1-2 point lead.
So let's talk about let's move on to President Trump's influence on this race. So let's talk about him and Governor Murphy for that matter, because I do think it goes hand in glove a little bit. So both these men underwater in New Jersey, correct? Not the best approvals for each?
Correct. But it's a little bit of a different story for each of them. So Phil Murphy, he's under at like 36.45. So he's a -9. Now, this is the lowest Phil Murphy has been in the 8 years that we've been polling him in New Jersey. Remember back in 2017, we had him winning by 15, 16 points. That's what he won by. We had him in 21. Again, he was like 49% popular. Now it's dropped down and he's unpopular. Trump is unpopular, but he's not as unpopular as he was back in 2017. He was like a -21 and now he's a -10. So he's actually gaining in popularity while Murphy is dropping in popularity. And that's a concern for the Democrats who are looking for a third term, essentially, as governor.
And in this case, you have, and we just saw this play out a couple of days ago in a debate, you have Sherrill trying to tie Ciattarelli to Trump as much as possible, who's endorsed him after this sort of long history of not necessarily coming around to the MAGA movement, but now Ciattarelli's firmly there. And you have Ciattarelli trying to tie Sherrill to Murphy and some of the local affordability issues like property taxes and utilities and whatnot. So staying with Trump for a moment before we move on to those important issues of property taxes and utilities, even with Trump's underwater approval. I get that it's rising historically, but he's still underwater. New Jerseyans very split about how the next governor should approach him, correct?
Oh, yeah. So we asked that question. Do you want to work with the Trump administration or they should fight the Trump administration? And the voters are generally split on this. It's 51-49 in favor of working with them. 5 months ago when we asked that question, it was 53-47 not working with them. So it's generally 50-50. This isn't like a home run issue where people are so anti-Trump this cycle that, it's a 60-40 split, in which case I think Sherrill would have a great issue there. It's a 50-50 is like we're seeing in the race. It's generally a 50-50 race too.
Now, a home run issue is certainly the economy. That'd be jobs, inflation, property taxes, right? I mean, what's the number, Spencer? It's like 51% said economy was their top issue?
Right. And then you throw in some affordable housing in there and you've got almost 60%. That's, 3 out of 5 voters are saying pocketbook issues are my concern. Now, threats to democracy's in there, crime's in there, healthcare's in there, but those are really, other issues that will maybe, give somebody the advantage. But the big issue is the economy, and that's where Jack is winning 50-30. So people think that he is going to do better for New Jersey economy than Mikie at this time. And so she's going to have to come up with that argument to try to win over some of those voters. And I don't think you could just give those away to the Republicans.
Arguably, the biggest affordability economic issue for many New Jerseyans is the property tax issue. Most people blamed a lot of factors, but certainly laid a lot of blame in the governor's office as well, you found, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And so, people are blaming a lot of folks, and some of them blame everybody. But when you look at those numbers, you can see that the governor takes the brunt of it by about 1 out of 4. We're going to say, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 4 are going to say it's the governor's fault. So this is what's driving down Murphy's favorability again to the lowest point in 8 years.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the issues, to be fair to Governor Murphy, he's tried on. I mean, most of this is controlled by local towns and schools, and Murphy actually came out with this rebate program in New Jersey known as the Anchor Program, literally sending what looks like stimulus checks, a couple times a year to not just homeowners and renters. And he's tried, and you still see people don't love what he's doing there. So a really sticky issue for anyone to solve. Utilities are the other big one. What did you find on utilities and where voters are thinking about that one?
Utilities voters are a little bit more focused on their blame with the utility companies, but then unfortunately for the governor, they also blame him. So when you're looking at, a couple of the issues on the cost of living, for a quarter of the voters, and it's more on the Republican side, it's about a third of the Republicans, they're blaming the governor for their economic situation, in which case it's going to be hard for Sherrill to be able to claim any successes from the Murphy administration while she runs. And it creates a question for voters. Are we going to have similar policies from the Democrats with Sherrill, or is it going to be totally different with Jack? And they're really up in the air right now. So over the next 5-6 weeks, you're going to see a lot of voters thinking about this race as the candidates campaign across the state, and we'll see where it ends up landing. But it's definitely up in the air.
If Ciattarelli wins this race or gets even closer than he did last time, even closer than President Trump, is it fair to say the presidential map has been redrawn and New Jersey, joins that list of swing states? Would that be going too far if Ciattarelli, say, loses by a point or wins by a point?
Well, I think if he wins, you definitely look at a swing state because it looks like New Jersey is trending to the right. Clinton wins by 15, 16. Biden wins by similar amount, and then Harris wins by 6. So, you've dropped 10 points. We saw it in the governors. Murphy wins by 15, 16, and then he wins by 3. So does it continue in that trend? And if it does, that would speak towards 2028 as a potential Republican pickup opportunity, which is kind of crazy because I don't think Jersey has gone Republican since 88. And so that's a long time to be voting blue. But we're starting to see that trend. This would be an interesting foreshadow of what potentially could happen in 28 based on what happens here in 25.
And of course, you're watching Virginia as well, the other big statewide contest we have every year after the presidential cycle, which sometimes is more interesting because no one can run as an incumbent down there, which I think is kind of a fascinating rule. You guys are in the field there next week, correct?
We are. So we'll jump back to Virginia. We haven't pulled Virginia since January, and we had that race pretty much as a toss-up. It was a 1-point lead for the Democrat up there. We'll see if she's able to hold that lead, expand that lead, or if the Republican was able to make some inroads. But that race, again, public polling seems to lean towards a 6-7 point lead for the Democrat. But down in Jersey, it was leaning like 9-10 for the Democrat. We looked at that race and said, no, this is a toss-up. We'll give you our assessment next week for Virginia.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Spencer, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Henry.
And that'll do it for this episode of PIX on Politics Daily. I'm Henry Rosoff in for Dan Mannarino. You can catch our very latest reporting on this exclusive new polling out of New Jersey that's really sending shockwaves through the political establishment today over at PIX11.com. A lot more insights and detail on the poll numbers there. But for now, I'm Henry Rosoff wishing you a great day.